So what is all this new real estate law about?
There's a whole raft of new laws, Jan, that are coming into the real estate buying and selling of property in South Australia. They start on the 21st of July. So that's when the regulations are passed, and that's the time when we go live with the new laws. There's the couple of big ones. That is that the underquoting of property prices, where basically we try to fool people to think that a property is going to be cheaper than what it is. It's called bait pricing. That will be completely banned, and there'll be a whole new requirement of what can be quoted, and it should standardise the industry, which will make a massive difference if you're a buyer and if you're a seller. And then the other side of it is that when agents go to list a property, it's been common practice for years that we tell you exactly what you want to hear. So let's say your home's worth $500,000 and an agent comes in and says it's worth 500, and then another agent comes in and says it's worth 550 or 600. Almost every time the owner of the property would say, oh, the $600,000 agent, he's the one I want to use because he loves my home, so, and all this kind of nonsense. Whereas in reality, the $600,000 quote knows full well that it'll only bring 500, and so it's just a con job. So it's nothing to do with confidence in the property, it's nothing to do with liking the property, it's just simply that the agent is actually deceiving the owner to get the listing. The law outlaws all of this.
So now how does this affect me as a seller?
Well, as a seller, the risk that you will now have is, let's use the same example. Let's say your home is worth 500. You're emotionally attached, you did all the work on it, you extended it, you painted the rooms, you did the front fence and did all the gardens, so you're very attached to your home. So it's quite difficult to look at your own home objectively. You now will need to. In the past, it didn't really matter because you could get very excited and emotional about it, and then the way that the system worked is that the agent would tell you what you wanted to hear, plus a bit, and then they would spend the next 2 or 3 or 4 weeks bashing you up to get the price down. And then eventually the buyers would come and meet the price, and you'd end up where you could have been from day one. So it means that there'll be a lot more honesty in the discussions with the owner and the agent, because it will become a legal requirement. There's a formula in there so that all of the marketing, all of the adverts will be consistent, but things to watch for, and here's your TOOP+TOOP tip. Make sure that you price it correctly, because if you don't, it will be like standing naked in the middle of Rundle Mall and everyone laughing at you, because they will actually see that you're overpriced your property. So the first step is be careful, put a lot of science into it and work hard on getting the pricing correct and not emotional. The second part is if you do overprice it, everyone will see it, so therefore it'll sit in the market, and your agent, if they are playing games with you, they will ultimately be exposed. The good news is, if you're the home seller, that if you are misled by the agent and you can show that, the penalties are very substantial for the agent.
Okay, so how's it going to affect the buyer then?
Well, the buyer will finally, maybe not initially while everyone sorts it out, but finally will not get conned. And if they do, there'll be a OCPA, which is Consumer Affairs, that will be able to take direct action, and they've got real teeth with the new legislation. The other party is that the ACCC, the body that looks after, basically, if you like, misrepresentation, they will actually be in a better position to track the issue. So you will see, as a buyer, more realistic pricing. If an owner's wanting a lot of money for their property, it will become part of the pricing, so you'll see it. And you won't have a situation that it occurs now where you might have 1, 2 or 3 different building inspections on properties that are going to auction, only to find that you don't end up buying it because you're 20% out in the pricing and somebody buys it for a whole lot more money than what you can afford. And that's that trickery that's going to be taken out. So buyer will have transparency.
So will this change the way I buy at an auction?
The buying at auction is so we've only discussed the two areas of pricing and so on, but buying at auction will change substantially as well. There's a form 1, R1 to R7, so there's 7 forms, and one of those forms relates to purchasing, and in there it outlines a whole lot of details. There's requirements, all sorts of new requirements, but in terms of auction, there'll be about a 5 or 6 minute compulsory spiel that we as auctioneers will have to go through. So bring your water bag, because the auctions will take a bit longer. And there's a lot of requirements of declaring different things. So for example, the owners of the property will now, not just at auction, but of all sales, will have to declare whether they know of salt dam, issues with the property, stormwater, flood. They will actually have to state to the buyer if they know of any issues. So it actually, there's so many changes that we could never cover it on this session. So I guess the Toopie's tips and the reason we've set up this hotline is that if you've got any questions or queries, we would really like you to jump onto Facebook, ask Toopie, and one of the Toopies will get back to you and give you the answers.